A very good evening to all my dear students. I welcome you on behalf of ICAI for today's session. I hope you have all revised what we have done in the previous classes. So last week we have started with a new chapter, that is chapter number 4, Share Capital and Debentures. Major part of the chapter has been done in the last week 2 classes. Today and on Wednesday we'll be completing this chapter. So today we'll be covering 3 to 4 important topics. And on Wednesday, we'll be having largely your rights issue, bonus shares, and debentures. So I hope you all are ready with your pens, papers, and eager to attend the class with full enthusiasm. Good evening, Abhinav Mishra, Navneet, Harsh, Geeta, Deepika, Jaya Manocha, everybody, Santosh Kumar. Welcome to the class, dear students, all of you. So I hope you all have revised what we have done. Pooja B, welcome to the class. I hope you all have revised what we have done. And if I ask you questions, you will be answering it. Good evening, Prajapati. Welcome to the class, children. So this chapter, I told you from section 43 to 72 of Companies Act, along with the company's rules we have been doing. Section 43 specifically talks about kinds of share capital, equity and preference was discussed in detail. We also did a definition of stock. Equity shares with differential rights are DVRs. If a company is issuing a DVR, ordinary resolution is required and not a special resolution. These are the kind of questions which can come in the MCQ page. Good evening, Mr. Harsh Mishra. Even I am glad to see you all back in the class. That's great. All right. So after DVRs, Adil Khan, good evening, child. After DVRs, I hope no doubts in DVRs because we also did a question related to this. Today, we'll be doing numerous questions along with MCQs like we did in the class also, so that the topics that you have revised are crystal clear in your mind and you will be able to apply your knowledge also. So section 43 was DVRs and equity and preference capital. Section 46 specifically talked about the duplicate and renewed share certificate. SH1 was for the share certificates and SH2 was for the renewed and duplicate share certificates. Thereafter, there was a penalty and voting rights under section 47. I hope no doubts. When is the preference shareholders entitled to vote? Only when the dividend has not been paid for 2 or more years, or only in the case of matters relating to their winding up. Otherwise, equity shareholders have the right to vote on every resolution which is placed before the company. But preference shareholders के पास इतने voting rights नहीं होते because उनको तो dividend and winding up पे preference मिलता है. तो अगर उसमें interest को अगर आप affect करते हो, 2 साल से ज़्यादा उन्हें dividend नहीं pay करते हो, then they get the voting rights as equivalent to the equity share capital. Otherwise, they will not have much of the voting rights. Then we did a very important topic in the last class. Can we vary the shareholders' rights? Yes, ma'am. Variation is possible. Only if 3/4 of the consent of the shareholders has been taken or a special resolution has been passed. So my question out of the revision to the class is that there was a C-class equity shareholders whose rights have to be varied. And because these C-class equity shareholders' rights are being affected, the D-class preference shareholders' rights were also affected. So we need to pass 3/4 of the consent of the issued shares of that class. Consent has to be taken or SR was required. Do we need the consent of D-class equity shareholders also? Yes or no? If this variation is affecting. Yes, ma'am. How many of them will have to say yes for this variation? Then only that variation can happen. Absolutely correct. You say that 3/4 of the shareholders of D will also say yes. That's correct. But do we need to pass SR also? No SR. Very good, Jaya Manocha. Navneet Maurya, everybody, no SR will be required. Harsh Mishra, that's great. So only the 3/4 of the consent of other shareholders, but SR is not required. Pooja B, everybody correct answer. Geeta. सबने बिल्कुल ठीक आंसर दिए, दैट्स ग्रेट. Anubhav Malik, very good. Ria, that's great, correct. Adil Khan, correct. So this proves that you all have revised, because when we move ahead in the chapter and we go and float between sweat equity and other shares, then generally we tend to forget section 48, which was very small. So if you are answering this correct, that means you have revised. And dissenting shareholders, 10% of the issued shares. Remember the issued shares? We did the practical question also from the study in the last class. So issued shares have to be seen. And they will, if they do not consent, within 21 days, they will file this variation cancellation with the tribunal. 49, 50, 51 was very simple. No more questions to be asked. Security of shares to be issued at a premium. Can we issue the shares at a premium? Yes, ma'am. And the amount of premium goes into which account? The amount of premium, if it is a 10 rupees shares and 2 rupees premium I have charged, so 2 rupees 10 will go in the share capital. 2 rupees will go to the securities premium amount. Very good. And this account can be used only for 5 purposes. What were those 5 purposes? To issue the unissued shares of the company, to write off the preliminary expenses, write off the issue expenses, premium on the redemption, and buyback. So this fourth line, premium payable on redemption, is very, very important for today's class, because today we will be learning section 55, how to redeem the preference shares. So this section 52 is going to play an important role in today's class. And if it is only 133 accounting standards compliant, then you don't use it for the premium redemption and also not for the writing of preliminary expenses. All right. Section 54, सबको याद है, day 1 में हमने करा था sweat equity shares. SR is required or OR? फटाफट से. Sorry. SR is required for sweat equity shares. Absolutely correct. And this resolution will mention the details about how many shares you're issuing, what are the current market value and consideration. A registered valuer will be appointed who will come and see the valuation of the property which is giving for the non-consideration cash things that you're giving in exchange of the sweat equity shares. All right. And the shares must be of the already issued class. All the applicable rules of equity are applicable to the sweat equity also. What is the period of validity of special resolution? Within how much time period the allotment of sweat equity shares should be made? 15 months, 18 months, 12 months, or 6 months? What is the validity? Very good. Excellent, Avneet. Adil. Absolutely correct. It should not be more than 12 months, or you can say within 1 year. That is also correct. Absolutely correct. And what is the maximum limit of issuing sweat equity shares? What is the maximum limit? 15% of the existing equity share capital. Prajapati, good. Geeta, that's great. Ria, Anubhav, Malik, everybody is giving the correct answer. Deepika V, very good. 15% of the existing paid up share capital or shares of the value of rupees 5 crore, whichever is higher. But what is the maximum overall cap that any time, including all the previous issues, it should never go beyond 25% of the paid up equity capital of the company. But if it is a startup, then we have to see 50% of the paid up share capital. The preference is also in up till 10 years. After 10 years, फिर वो normal इसी limit में आता. And can you sell the sweat equity shares after 2 years? No, ma'am. There is a lock-in period of 3 years. No withdrawal or transfer can be made for a period of 3 years. Registered valuer. Okay, somebody was having a doubt over here also, that how the non-cash consideration, whatever, if you have received any asset. So I have given sweat equity shares to my employees. All right. And when I give sweat equity shares, so my share capital has increased. Am I right, student? So I have given 1 lakh rupees of sweat equity to my employees, directors, permanent employees. So in my balance sheet, it is showing amount of 1 lakh rupees. Now I need to show a corresponding asset amount over here. Is that correct? So if any asset has been given, non-cash consideration, show the asset of 1 lakh in the balance sheet. If it is not an asset, then where will I show the other debit side? Then it simply says one has been shown on the credit side, right? So on the debit side, you simply put it in the P&L account as an expense because you need to do the second entry of the debit description. Is that correct? Very good, Riya, Deepika. Absolutely correct. Everybody is answering. Difficult to make the names of so many. Adil, Navneet, Anubhav, Harsh. Anubhav Mishra is also answering. Very good. Yes, Prajapati. Hina. Good, Hina. Okay, Hina has a question. What are you asking, Hina? Ma'am, one doubt on CDS Group 1 books are for May, but for law, it is July, only July 25 is not clear. Now there are not much of amendments, so you can refer to that edition that is available with you. Otherwise, you can refer to the online module also. So when you are doing with me in the class, we're referring to the online module and you can see if there are any changes, all right? And which form will be used for sweat equity shares? SH4, SH5, SH3. Absolutely correct. SH3. All right. SH3 is the form register of sweat equity shares. And the employees, even if those are working in India, outside India, subsidiary, holding K in India, outside India, director, whole-time director or not, anybody can be issued these sweat equity shares. Is that clear to everyone? Now can we move ahead and start a new topic? So we have done a quick revision of whatever we have done till now. Now we will do issue and redemption of preference shares, that is section 55. So children, what is the meaning of preference shares? We have already done. So in your study, it has very beautifully given cumulative preference shares or non-cumulative, redeemable preference shares or irredeemable. So when I started section 43 with you, that time only I told you that there are different categories of preference shares. So can anyone tell me what is the meaning of cumulative preference shares and non-cumulative? So if the profits or the dividends are being accumulated for every year, then it is a cumulative preference shares. Means if I have issued a preference shares and I don't have a profit this year, so the dividend was not paid for this year, and next year also I did not have the profit, so I did not pay the dividend. Now in the third year, if I'm having the profit, Navneet Maurya, that is the limit that is given in the section 447. You cannot combine that limit, okay? So at least means when one limit is above that, at least means agar itna hai ya below that. Okay, so the first at least one is this much or below that. And it is never and, it is or only. The word that you have written and is not correct. At least 10 lakh or 1% of turnover, whichever is higher or less. Okay, or second is more than that. So where were we? हम क्या बात कर रहे थे? हाँ, cumulative preference shares. So cumulative preference shares, if they have asked you that your profits will be accumulated, then in the third year you will get the dividend for the first and second year also and for the third year also. But if it is not, if it is clearly written that you are a non-cumulative preference shares, then in the year of loss you will not get. Only in the year of profit your dividends will be paid to. Remember? What was another category for preference shares? Participating and non-participating preference shares. So if you are preference shareholders, I will show you from the module box where it is. So that even if you're marking, you can mark it down in your books along. So children, keep revising prospectus and preliminary also, because you should not forget the previous chapters, because as and when we will be moving. Good evening, Shamli Sharma. As and when we keep on moving ahead in the chapters, you tend to forget what you have done in the previous days, okay? Sweat equity we have discussed. So we are doing issue and redemption of preference shares. So on the basis of payment of dividend, I just explained you these points, that is cumulative and non-cumulative preference shares. for participating in surplus. So if it is clearly written at the time of issue of preference shares that yes, you are a participatory, then only they can participate in the equity pool. I told you in the last class what is the meaning of equity pool, that first preference shareholders will be paid, then equity shareholders will be paid. If still some balance is left and you are a participatory preference shareholder, then you can take the share in this equity pool also. But if it is not written, then generally it is non-participatory, you will not participate. On the basis of conversion, you can be converted into debts or debentures, mandatory or optional, or you're a non-convertible preference shares, means you cannot be converted. Then comes your real category, that is redeemable and irredeemable. So now onwards, irredeemable preference shares are not allowed. What is the meaning of redeeming or irredeeming? Means to repay. Redemption means to repay. So irredeemable cannot be issued. Whenever you're issuing a preference share, it has to be redeemed after a certain time. Means अगर आपने redeemable preference shares issue करे हैं, थोड़े टाइम बाद वो repay कर दिए जाएंगे. There is a prohibition. Irredeemable preference shares issue ही नहीं हो सकते. Amendment of 1988 to the Companies Act, the above category has been excluded. So only the redeemable preference shares can be issued by company limited by shares. Obviously, if you're a company limited by shares, that's why you're having a share capital. So here you can have only the redeemable preference shares. Now, what are the conditions for issuing? First, we will do the conditions from my presentation. In a simpler form, I've made notes for you. So you learn it from here, and then we will read each and every line of study material, because I don't prefer to leave a single line of study material because it is very, very important. So preference shares, company limited by shares will not issue preference shares which are irredeemable. That is clear. Only the redeemable preference shares are issued. What are the conditions for issuing the preference shares? Number one, authorization by articles of association is required. Means if my articles of association say that yes, you can issue a preference shares, then only you can issue a preference shares. If my articles are silent about preference shares, then a company cannot issue the preference shares. Is that clear? So company can issue the preference shares only and only if it is clearly authorized by the articles of association. What is required to be passed? Special resolution is required. So in DVRs, it is ordinary resolution. In sweat equity shares, it is special resolution. In variation of shares, section 48, it is special resolution. In redemption of preference shares, it is special resolution. Keep making a chart in your registers or notebooks so that during the day of exams, you don't get confused where it is OR and S. Things become simpler, children, when you make such kind of efforts, highlight the materials and content so that it becomes easy for you. First 3 points are clear. Only the redeemable, articles, authorization, and SR is required. There should not be any default in redemption of preference shares or payment of dividend which is due on the preference shares. So you can issue a preference shares. Now, I am a company ABC Limited and I am planning to issue preference shares. So, ma'am, if you're ABC Limited and your company limited by shares and you're issuing preference shares, please check your articles. If it is written, yes, ma'am, it is written. Have you passed SR? Yes, ma'am, we have passed the SR. But you know, earlier also in 2020, I issued the preference shares. I have still not redeemed them. And neither I have paid the dividend. Will you allow me to issue the preference shares? Will ABC Limited be allowed to issue the preference shares if it is a defaulter in redeeming the preference shares in earlier years, or if it has not paid the dividend in the earlier years? No, ma'am, you will not be allowed to issue the preference shares. Absolutely correct. So you should not have defaulted in dividend and redeemed the preference shares. Clear? Now the next one. For how long the preference shares can be redeemed? They can be issued for a period of 20 years. You cannot redeem them for a period exceeding 20 years. They shall be redeemed within a period of 20 years. Means 20 साल से ज्यादा आप प्रेफरेंस शेयर्स को नहीं इशू करके रख सकते. आपको 20 साल बाद उन्हें रीपे करना ही पड़ेगा. So what is the maximum period of issue? 20 years is the maximum time limit for which preference shares can be issued. But if it is an infrastructure project, so we have big builders who are doing walls, constructions, and other kind of projects, infrastructures, buildings, then they can be issued the preference shares, but not more than for 30 years. So the maximum limit is preference shares can be issued maximum period 20 years. You will write a note, but if it is infrastructure, company, then it is 30 years. Is that clear? But there is a condition in this case. That is, start redeeming from 21st year at least 10% of the preference shares each. Means if you are an infrastructure company, then you can issue maximum preference shares for a maximum period of 30 years. But then the redemption should start from the 21st year or earlier on proportionate basis. At least 10% of the preference shares annually should be redeemed. So this is the condition which they have imposed. That is, at least 10% of the preference shares. Who is speaking in between? At least 10% of the preference shares shall be redeemed every year, starting from the 21st. At the option of preference shareholders, वो बताएंगे कि आपने 10th year से करना है, 2nd year से करना है, कब करना है. But maximum 20 years के लिए हो सकते हैं. Infrastructure projects वाले maximum 30 years के लिए issues. Clear? So AO authorization is required. SR is supposed to be passed. No default. Then 20 years. Infrastructure है तो 30 years. But 30 years वाले के साथ क्या condition है? 10% of the preference shares starting from 21st year shall be redeemed every year. Now let's talk about the redemption of preference shares. How you're going to redeem these preference shares. That means how these preference shares are going to be repaid. How the repayment has to be done. Preference shares shall be redeemed out of the profits of the company which was otherwise available for payment of dividend. So what are the profits of the company to be used for paying the dividend of the preference shareholders? Yes, that's correct. And the preference shares redemption is also to be done from the profits of the company, or matlab choice hai, the proceeds of the fresh issue of the shares for the purpose of redemption. So I have to redeem 2 lakh preference shares, and the profit of the company for that year is only 1 lakh, which is available for paying the dividend. Now, since we are redeeming them, so we have already paid them the dividend, let's pay this 1 lakh to this 2 lakh. So still balance 1 lakh is left. So company will issue more preference shareholders, will get money from them and repay the old preference. So that is how the redemption process takes place. Either I should be having sufficient profits available in my company to redeem them, or I will have to issue the fresh shares for the purpose of redemption. Remember, all this you have very nicely done in accounts. You have been doing how does the redemption of preference shares happen in accounts also. Have you done the practical questions related to that? Now here we are understanding the theory part. At the option of shareholder means that shareholders will decide कि 21st year से करना है या 23rd year से करना है, कब करना. Sorry, 10% करना है या कितना करना है, but 21st year से they will start doing. Okay. So have you done about the CRR in accounts? Do you know what is capital redemption reserve? Savia Khan, good answer for the previous one. Fresh issue of equity shares. Same type of shares. Issue nahi kar sakte na. So Anubhav, it depends because right now, after a while, I'll be teaching you when you go to the tribunal, then also you can issue the same kind of preference shares also. Then also it can be used for redemption. All right. So you can use that kind of share also. There is no problem. Yes, Navneet, the percentage will be at the option of preference share holders. That means they can do more also. At least 10% का मतलब है ज्यादा भी कर सकते हो आप. 15% कर लो, 25% कर लो, जितने मर्जी लो. पर 21st ईयर से शुरू कर दो रिडीम. ओके. Amount of shares redeemed has to be, yes, Jaya Manoja, absolutely correct. Amount of shares redeemed has to be transferred to capital redemption reserve. So everybody is clear as of now that the proceeds of fresh issue of shares can be used, equity shares if you're issuing or preference shares for the purpose of redemption. Okay, and these shares have to be fully paid up. What is the meaning of this line? The shares to be redeemed shall be fully paid up. If I have a preference share of rupees 10 per share and only rupees 8 has been paid up, can we say if rupees 2 is pending, it is a partly paid up share? Can I redeem this preference shares which is partly paid up? Everybody has to answer this. Because partly paid shares are forfeited. Okay, partly paid shares are forfeited. You will reissue the shares once the payment has been made. Absolutely correct. Yes, Anubhav, you cannot issue them. Old preference shares could redeem. Yes, yes, you can issue new preference shares also, Anubhav. Absolutely. Very good. Absolutely. Adil Khan, सबने सही आंसर दिया है. Partly paid shares are forfeited. You cannot redeem them. Shamli Sharma, great. Everybody is clear. So out of the profits, you can redeem them or out of the proceeds of the fresh issue of shares made for the redemption. And the shares have to be fully paid up. Partly paid shares are forfeited. They cannot be redeemed. Then we have capital redemption reserve has to be created. A sum equivalent to the nominal amount of the share. What is the meaning of nominal amount of the share? Whatever amount we have decided to redeem, an amount equal to the nominal value of the shares to be redeemed out of such profits will be transferred to the capital redemption reserve. Children, now when I am redeeming the preference shares, so in my balance sheet, it was showing a 2 lakh preference shares. Now I'm redeeming it. So it will not lead to reduction of my share capital. I will create a CRR equivalent to that amount, that is 2 lakh rupees. And this CRR can only be used for the payment of bonus, not for any other purpose. All right. So capital redemption reserve are equivalent to the amount. If you have profits, then you redeem it out of the profits and you create a CRR which is equivalent. Now, the CRR will be created only if you are redeeming the preference shares out of the profit. You are creating a reserve for that. And this amount will be treated as the similar amount as the paid up share capital and can be reduced only in the manner the paid up share capital of the company is reduced. So there are 2 points to be noticed over here. One is I am redeeming the preference shares. I'm repaying my preference shares and an amount equivalent to the nominal value of the shares, CRR is created. When I redeemed my preference shares, can you say that the share capital has been reduced? Can we call the redemption of preference shares the reduction of share capital? Yes or no? Quickly tell me in the chat. Absolutely correct. Reduction. No. Pooja says yes. No, Pooja. Redemption of preference shares is, लिखो अपने notes में, redemption of preference shares is not the reduction of company's authorized share capital. Yes, Shamli, because you've created CRR. Absolutely correct. But the CRR that we have created shall be treated as the way if it is a paid up share capital of the company, and that will be reduced the way section 66 is applicable. जैसे हम section 66 में reduction of share capital के बारे में पढ़ेंगे, CRR को भी उसी तरह treat करा जाता है. But समझने वाली बात क्या है कि CRR is treated as paid up share capital, and preference shares redemption is not the reduction of share capital, means you have not reduced the company's share capital, you have created a CRR equivalent amount, and this is treated as the paid up share capital of the company, which will be used for paying the fully paid bonus shares. इसका एक ही यूज होता है, fully paid bonus shares के लिए ही हम CRR को यूज कर सकते हैं. Okay? And the CRR is made only when the redemption is done out of the profits. Everybody's clear now. Let's understand the point of premium also, and then I will just make you revise from the study also on these points. Sometimes we also pay the premium on the redemption of preference shares. At times, the premium is also paid. This premium is paid either out of the profits or security premium amount. Now, let's take an example. If I am redeeming a preference shares, so there is a case of redemption of preference shares, 2 lakh preference shares, and we have to redeem them, means we have to pay them back. Now, this redemption, the nominal value of the shares is rupees 10 each share. So it is 20 lakh rupees that we are paying. And also we are paying a premium of rupees 2 per share. Children, this 10 rupees of redemption shall be paid either out of the profits of the company or out of the fresh proceeds of the issue. Fresh shares issue करने पड़ेंगे, इसको repay करने. And 2 rupees premium कहाँ से pay होगा? Profits of the company or the security premium amount. अभी हमने पढ़ा था section 52 में, आपने security premium account create करा था. So security premium account किस चीज के लिए यूज होता है? To pay the premium on redemption of preference shares. But if you are a company whose financial assets are made as per section 133, then you cannot use this premium. Why? Because, ma'am, you just taught us if you are following section 133, then SPM में preliminary expenses and premium on redemption is not available. Then only and only out of profits you will have to pay the premium on redemption. Everybody is clear, because this is a very important point, and if you're able to catch it, then that's great. So 10 rupees कहाँ से pay करने हैं? Profit से and या फिर fresh issue से. 2 rupees कहाँ से pay करने हैं? Profit से या security premium amount से. अगर profit से redemption करा है, तो an amount equal to the nominal value of the shares redeemed, CRR shall be created, and this CRR will only be used for paying the fully paid bonus. If the premium is being paid, it will be done out of the profits or SPA. But if you're section 133 company, then only out of the profits. Please create a provision for this redemption. Before redeeming, provision for premium will also be created in your accounting statements. And the register of members will also contain the details of preference shareholders. ये extra points इसमें बताएं कि register of members बनते हैं जब हम MGT पढ़ेंगे, management and administration chapter. It starts from section 88, telling you about how the registers are being made. Register of equity shareholders, register of preference shareholders, registers of debentures. So the members register also contain the details of preference shareholders. And whenever you're paying the premium on redemption, the entry for the provision of premium shall also be made. Is that clear? All of you clear on this amount? If a company is unable to redeem the existing preference shares, or if the company is not able to pay the dividend, फिर क्या आएगा? दिक्कत वाली बात तो फिर आएगी अगर कंपनी पे ही नहीं कर पा रही, कंपनी इज अनएबल टू पे द डिविडेंड. If a company, now see children, I told you there is a time period for which the preference shares can be issued. How much time period? Maximum 20 years. If you are in infrastructure, maximum 30 years. Let me see the chat box. Yes. And can I redeem the preference shares beyond 20 years? No, you have to repay them after 20 years. Yes, Shreya Manocha, face value amount, that's correct. All right, एक second बस मैं chat box देख लूँ. Buyback chapter, sir told us this. Yes, Prajapati, absolutely. So that is how your accounts and law are interlinked. Syllabus में थोड़ा सेम आता है तो अच्छा भी लगता है ना कि हमने ऐसा कुछ कुछ सुना हुआ है और पढ़ा. Okay. The company may, okay, now let's say 20 years. So a company is not in a position to redeem the preference shares or pay the dividend, then it becomes unredeemed preference. अब 20 years तक आपने रिडीम करना था, बट आप 25 years हो गए या 21 years हो गए, आप रिडीम नहीं कर पा रहे, you're not in the position, you don't have money to repay the preference shareholders, not even you're paying the dividend. Then such company may issue further redeemable preference shares. Shravan, are you listening? I can issue preference shares also. Fresh issue means either equity or preference, both. So such company may issue further redeemable preference shares to the holder of unredeemed preference shares, an amount equal to the amount due including the dividend, with the consent of 3/4 of the unredeemed preference shares, and tribunal's approval is to be taken. In this way, unredeemed preference shares shall deemed to have been redeemed. Now, children, listen very, very careful. It's an important concept. Company issued preference shares, 5 lakh rupees, to be redeemed after say 10 years. Company unable to pay dividend or redeem the preference shares. So what will happen? अगर कंपनी नहीं पे कर रही और नहीं रिडीम कर रही तो ये क्या बन जाएंगे? They will be called unredeemed preference shares. Everybody is clear till here? Now, 3/4 in value of these unredeemed, सारे नहीं जाएंगे, और भी तो हो सकते हैं ना जो भी चल रहे हैं 20s के लिए. अनरिडीम्ड जो बन गए, जिनका पे नहीं करा, जिनका रिडीम नहीं हुआ, 3/4 in value of these unredeemed preference shareholders will file a petition. Petition means case file करेंगे. किसके पास? ट्राइब्यूनल के पास केस फाइल करेंगे कि देखिए हमारी पेमेंट नहीं हो रही, we are not getting the dividend and we are not being repaid, please help us. Then tribunal will pass the order and company will have to issue further redeemable preference shares to them. Company will have to issue further redeemable preference shares to them, and it shall be assumed, it shall be deemed that unredeemed preference shares have been paid off. Have been paid off कह लो या फिर have been redeemed. कहने का मतलब है कि मैं ज्यादा देर तक नहीं ना इशू कर सकती, मैक्सिमम 20, यहाँ 20 years ही लिख लो ताकि कंफ्यूजन ना. 20 years हो गए थे, रिडीम नहीं करा, नहीं रिडीम करा तो अनरिडीमेबल बन गए. 3/4 ऑफ द वैल्यू वाले अप्रूवल लेने जाएंगे ट्राइब्यूनल से, प्लीज देखिए हमें पेमेंट नहीं हो रही है, एंड ट्राइब्यूनल ऑर्डर पास करेगा कि आप फ्रेश रिडीमेबल प्रेफरेंस शेयर्स इशू कर दो. अब आपके पुराने वाले प्रेफरेंस शेयर्स को रिडीम्ड मान लिया जाए. It shall be deemed redeemed that now your preference shares that were given to you have been paid off. Clear? So tribunal shall order the redemption of preference shares who have consented to the issue. Will order the redemption of preference shares who have consented to issue further redeem. मतलब उनको और आपने preference shares redeem कर दिए, और इस और इशू करने से फ्रेश इशू कर दिया ना आपने. फ्रेश इशू ऑफ इक्विटी शेयर्स से हम पहले पे कर रहे थे, अब हमारे पास पैसे नहीं है, हम पे नहीं कर रहे हैं, उन्होंने ट्राइब्यूनल के पास केस फाइल कर दिया, सो नाउ वी विल इशू फर्दर रिडीमेबल प्रेफरेंस शेयर्स. नाउ दे आर होल्डिंग न्यू प्रेफरेंस शेयर्स. दोस शेयर्स हैव बीन कंसीडर्ड टू बी redeemed. Is that clear? So what is the time period for going to the tribunal? It says whenever the 3/4 of the shareholders agree, they will file a petition. Let's read the redemption and issue of preference shares from the modulars. So example 9 says articles authorization is capital by issuing the preference shares. Articles is silent about this. Board of directors are of the opinion that redeemable preference shares can be issued. So here articles are silent. अगर articles में कुछ नहीं लिखा children, can we issue preference shares? Yes or no? If articles are silent means if articles are not giving us the permission, then you cannot issue the preference shares. All right. Yes, Mr. Chavan, your question that you have raised. Yes, Harsh Mishra, because all these points of meetings, resolution, register of members, all these important points are given in chapter number 7. Okay. Yes, everybody is correct. No, ma'am, we cannot issue. Navneet Maurya, here it is nothing about the dissenting shareholders. It is only saying that agar aap unredeemed ho, so at least 3/4 in value will have to file a petition. Then only this process of tribunal will be taken care of. $10 or 3 years. Adil, it is for 20 years. And if you're infrastructure, then it is for 30 years. Clear? So maximum tenure is 20 years. And if it is a infrastructure company, then it is 30 years. SR needs to be passed. There should be no default. MCQ question dega. There was a default in payment of dividend. Preference shares were not redeemed. Can you issue the preference shares? No, ma'am. If the company has made a default, you cannot issue the further preference shares. Register of members under section 88, I told you, have to be maintained. If the company wants to list its preference shares, कई बार आप पूछते थे कि मैम preference shares को भी listed करा सकते हैं, बिल्कुल करा सकते हैं. You have to follow the regulations made by the SEBI in this behalf. Maximum tenure 20 years. Along with this, 30 years for the infrastructure project, then at least 10% of such preference shares should be redeemed starting from the 21st year onwards or earlier. See, or earlier bhi na, on proportionate basis at the option of preference shareholders. वो decide करेंगे, अगर वो पहले करना चाहते तो पहले भी pay back कर सकते. Redemption will be made out of profits or proceeds of fresh issue and fully paid up shares. When they are redeemed out of profits, a nominal value is transferred to CRR. It will be strictly treated as paid up share capital and CRR will be reduced. यहाँ पे लिख के रख लो as per section 66. Reduction of share capital होती है 66 में. CRR will also be reduced as per section 66. And यहाँ पे लिख के रख लो preference shares redemption is not reduction of share capital. Preference share redemption is not, very important. MCQ based question. Preference shares की redemption को reduction of share capital नहीं माना जाता क्योंकि CRR create हो. Company may issue new shares up to the nominal amount and the capital shall not deem to have been increased. Capital increase भी नहीं हो रही है, बराबर गई तो CRR create कर रहे हैं. Okay, let's understand from example 10. During the current financial year, the board of directors of the Vinity Lifestyle Garments undertake redemption of 20,000 preference shares at a premium of ₹20 per share. It is made out by the accounts department that the profits are sufficient to meet the ensuing liability arising out of the redemption at premium. Amount was to be transferred to CRR out of the profits which is otherwise available for dividend. कितना amount transfer करेंगे? 20,000 preference shares है, 120 पे issue. Nominal amount मैंने कहा था आपको, redemption consider करेंगे? No ma'am. 20,000 preference shares into 100 कितना हुआ? 20 lakh rupees will be transferred to the CRR. No amount of premium shall be transferred to CM. Everybody is clear? प्रीमियम कहाँ से पे होगा मैम? प्रीमियम प्रॉफिट से पे होगा या फिर सिक्योरिटी प्रीमियम अकाउंट? इफ इट सेक्शन 133 then security premium account will not be used. Such class of companies whose financial statements are under section 133 then only profits should be used. Timing before such shares are redeemed, please provide for them. And if it is the premium payable on the issue on or before commencement of this act, means 133 is not being considered, then out of the profits or security premium account. We have already done this. ठीक है? Issuing the further, ध्यान से सुनना, issuing the further redeemable preference shares, the company is not able to redeem or pay dividend. Then what will happen? You will read this colorful chart which is given. If the company is not in a position or to pay dividend, they have become unredeemed. Then they will issue further redeemable preference shares equivalent to the amount including the dividend. डिविडेंड भी लेना है. मैंने तो 5 लाख का शेयर का एग्जांपल लिया था. सपोज हमारा 15-20 हजार का डिविडेंड भी नहीं आया तो 5,15,000 का इशू करेंगे इक्वलेंट टू द अमाउंट व्हिच वाज ड्यू इंक्लूडिंग द डिविडेंड. किसका कंसेंट लेके? 3/4 ऑफ द वैल्यू ऑफ अनरिडीम्ड प्रेफरेंस शेयर्स एंड द अप्रूवल ऑफ ट्राइब्यूनल ऑन अ पिटिशन मेड बाय इट इन दिस बिहाफ. इन दिस वे अनरिडीम्ड प्रेफरेंस शेयर्स शैल डीम टू हैव बीन रिडीम्ड. With regard to preference shares who have not consented, tribunal will order the redemption forthwith while giving the approval. कहेगा उनको तो फटाफट से अप्रूव कर दो. आप पूछ रहे थे ना 1/4 शेयर होल्डर्स जिन्होंने कुछ कहा ही नहीं, they don't want that further redeemable preference shares, then they shall be repaid while giving the approval. They shall order redemption forthwith means उसी वक्त उनको आप redeem कर. Is that clear? So 3/4 of the share value of shareholders are going, but those who are not willing for this, they are not agreeing for this issue, they will be redeemed. Navneet, are you clear about this point now? They will be redeemed immediately. Clear? Okay. Let's understand example number 11. It's very, very interesting. Bell Homes Company unable to redeem the preference shares when they became due. Company decided to issue further preference shares against unredeemed preference shares. The holder holding 93% of unredeemed preference shares in value gave their consent. Tribunal also accepted them to issue the further preference shares. 18 holders who owned remaining 7% seek the redemption of preference shares held by them. तो क्या हुआ? 93%, हमने तो 75% and above बोला था ना, तो 93% वाले कंसेंट दे देते हैं and they say that okay, please issue us the further preference shares, we're okay with that. Remaining 7% want their redemption to happen immediately. While giving the approval, tribunal shall order the redemption of these 7% held by dissenting 18 shareholders. Means these 18 shareholders who are holding at least 7% in value will be allowed to be redeemed immediately. इनको कोई फर्दर इशू नहीं होंगे, उनको रीपे करके घर भेज दिया जाए. Clear, everyone? Understood? Yes, Shamli, remaining means the dissenting ones. All right. Now, utilization of capital retention reserve, for what purpose it has to be used? Only for paying the unissued shares of the capital as fully paid bonus shares. Redemption account may be applied paying up unissued shares of the company to be issued to the members as fully paid bonus shares. Very, very important line. सिर्फ एंड सिर्फ आप इससे बोनस शेयर्स इशू कर सकते हैं और कुछ भी इशू नहीं कर सकते. Anyone having any doubt? So if the 3/4 of the shareholders who have consented and we have redeemed those by issuing the fresh shares, they were balanced 50 shareholders who are holding 1/4 of the consent. If they do not consent, can we allow them to do the redemption immediately? Will the tribunal ask for the redemption immediately? Yes or no? Yes, yes, Anubhav. Yes, good. Everybody has given the correct answer. Okay, now let's start with a very, very interesting topic, that is transfer of the shares and transmission of the securities. So, what is the meaning of the word transfer and transmission? If A wants to give his share certificates to B, means can he transfer his shares? Remember definition of private company and public company. Public company shares are freely transferable. किसी को भी transfer कर दो, हमें कोई problem. Private company shares, are there certain restrictions on transferring their shares to another person. But whether you are a public company or a private company, you will have to follow a process for transferring of these shares. So if A wants to transfer his shares of ABC company to Mr. B, then A is known as transferor and B is known as transferee. जो दे रहा है अपने shares उसको बोलते हैं transferor. जिसको दिए जा रहे हैं उसको बोलते हैं transferee. First point is an instrument of transfer will be made. Instrument of transfer means a transfer deed. एक document बनाया जाएगा. बेटा अगर आप अपना घर किसी को बेचते हैं तो आप सेल डीड बनाते हैं. प्रॉपर्टी बेच रहे हैं तो रजिस्टर डॉक्यूमेंट बनाते हैं, सेल डीड बनेगी. Similarly, shares are your property. You are selling it to somebody else. You're transferring your shares to someone else. Then you have to execute and make a proper transfer. Deed will be made by both transferor and transferee will sign this transfer deed. हमने क्या लिया है? ट्रांसफरर हमने लिया है मिस्टर ए एंड ट्रांसफरी इज मिस्टर पी. नेम, एड्रेस एंड ऑक्यूपेशन ऑफ द ट्रांसफरी विल बी रिटन. सो ए कहेगा कि ये लो जी ट्रांसफर डीड मैंने बना दी, बी को दे दो, बी यहाँ रहता है, बी की ऑक्यूपेशन ये है, बी का नेम, एड्रेस, ऑक्यूपेशन सब लिख देना है हमने ट्रांसफर डीड में एंड स्टैम्प कर देनी है एंड डेट कर. डेट लगानी क्यों जरूरी है? क्योंकि 1 अगस्त 2025 से अब शेयर्स आपके हो गए, इसलिए डेट लगानी जरूरी. This transfer deed document form SH4 is to be used where the securities are held in physical form. Now children, I told you depository's name, beneficiary's name, generally everything is happening online because shares are now in demat form. But if the shares are held in physical form, then you need to make a transfer deed document. So this transfer document shall be made in SH4 form. Everybody is clear till first 4 points? So first 4 points are talking about transfer deed will be made, name of transfer and transferee will be added, name, address and occupation of the person will be added, duly stamped and signed, and SH4 has to be used. Then it says this instrument shall be delivered to the company along with the certificate of shares within 60 days from the date of execution. तो मैंने कहा 31st August 2025 को मैंने transfer deed बनाई. So by which date I need to file this certificate? This should be delivered to the company along with the certificate within 60 days from the date of execution. So 60 days from 31st August, 30th September, and 30th October. So till 30th, by 30th of October, this document shall be filed with the company. If the share certificate is not in existence, then letter of allotment shall be filed. What is the meaning of letter of allotment? Children, under section 39, I told you, shares are allotted. So what happens? The person apply for the shares and the company will give him the shares and a letter of allotment is given under section 39. After that, share certificates are issued. So if you have lost your share certificate or it is not in existence anymore or a duplicate was issued or something has happened, then please give us your letter of allotment has to be filed. आप कुछ तो दोगे ना ट्रांसफर, that is the proof that the letter of allotment is showing that the shares were allotted. But if the names of both the people are entered in the depositories record, means if the shares are in demat form, then no need to do all this. Online हो जाएगा सब कुछ करने की जरूरत नहीं, कहीं जाने की जरूरत नहीं, कोई सर्टिफिकेट नहीं देना, online कर लो सब कुछ. If the transfer is taking place where the names of A and B are already entered as the beneficiary trust in the records of depository, then you don't need to apply this above provision. सो फटाफट से लर्न करते हैं. सेक्शन 56 में हमने क्या समझा, ट्रांसफर कैसे होगा. पहले तो ए ट्रांसफर कर रहा है बी को, ए ट्रांसफरर है एंड बी इज ट्रांसफर. बी ट्रांसफर डीड विल बी मेड, executed, name, address, occupation, duty stamped and signed, SH4 form to be used. Within 60 days, you file it with the company along with the certificate or the letter of allotment. But if you are a demat shareholder, then no provision will apply. If this instrument of transfer has been lost or it has not been delivered to the company within 60 days, then the company may register the transfer only on the basis of indemnity as the board may think fit. What is the meaning of the word indemnity? What is the meaning of the word indemnity? Indemnity means to compensate, to make good the loss. Now, if 60 days have passed and you have not delivered this transfer deed document, or this transfer deed document has been lost, then company will transfer the shares of A to B only if A is ready to give the indemnity bond that tomorrow if any loss happens, A will be liable for that. They have to give the indemnity bond that, all right, fine, I have lost the transfer deed document. I will sign as per the board of directors requirement. Indemnity bond has to be signed that the company will not bear the loss, any loss happening with this transfer. Clear? Clear, this point of indemnity is clear. Then the next point is related to partly paid up shares. So in the previous example, I was telling you if rupees 10 per shares are there and A has only paid rupees 8 per share. So how much amount is pending, children? Rupees 10 per share. Therefore, this share that I'm transferring is partly paid up share. Now company will be tensed that A had to pay rupees 2 per share and now A is transferring his share to B. Company will be in doubt, will B pay me this rupees 2 per share? So application made by the transferor loan and it is partly paid up share, then in SH5, company will make an application to the transferee and tell him that please B, give me a no objection certificate within the 2 weeks that you have no problem in taking up this share and you will now pay me this rupees 2 per share. क्या कहता है वो? अगर partly paid up shares है and the transferor, I'm transferring my shares to Mr. Harsh Mishra. So Harsh Mishra and Harleen ma'am will make the transfer deed, they will execute it and they will get it filed with the company within 60 days. If it is lost or not filed in 60 days, indemnity will need to be given to the company because company will not bear the loss. We will give the indemnity that the company will register only if we are ready to indemnify or compensate the company for it. Now, if the share that I'm transferring was rupees 10 and I've only paid rupees 8 or say for example rupees 7, 3 rupees is still pending. So now the company will send a notice to Mr. Harsh Mishra that look, Harleen ma'am is transferring her partly paid up shares to you. We will not register this unless I will send you an SH5 form. Company will send SH5 form and will ask Mr. Harsh to give a no objection certificate that I have no problem to take up these shares even if it is partly paid up because tomorrow, whenever the chance will come, I will pay up the rupees 3 on these shares. Clear? Everybody is clear on these points. Anybody having any doubts, tell me. Yes, yes, beta. Unissued shares are part of authorized share capital अनुभव. अभी हम रिडक्शन ऑफ शेयर कैपिटल में पढ़ेंगे ना तो क्लियर हो जाएगा अनुभव आपको पॉइंट. ऑल राइट. Okay, so government company has been given certain exemptions under this transfer. Let's take a small break here. So go through the points of redemption of preference shares and go through the points of redemption of preference shares. We have done the examples also and just read the transfer from the study material. Okay, let's take a small break here. Ashok sir, we are taking a break. hope you have gone through the points. Let's first complete the transfer and transmission from the study material notes. Kuldeep Nagar, we will be discussing about SH5. So children, all these points and provisions are very, very important to learn. Examiner might not give you a direct question, explain the transfer or transmission. Yes, Aditi Gupta, absolutely. It will be also a case-based question. And if such a case-based question comes to you that, for example, I say that A is transferring the shares to B, then you always need to write these case-based questions in 3 different paragraphs. First is the concern provision. So you will have to give section 56. What is it trying to tell you? How the transfer will take place? How the provisions will occur? Then you will have to give facts of the case. And then you give your analysis and conclusion. So in today's class, we are going to do a number of questions related to redemption of preference shares as well as transfer, so that you get full clarity about how to attempt these questions also. So first is your learning part. जब मैम ने पढ़ा लिया तो आपने पढ़कर रिवाइज करके लर्न करना. जब मुझे प्रोविजन लर्न हो गई ना, then I have to do the case studies. Without learning, you will not be able to do case studies. Clear? Requirement for registering, it says when the transfer is in the depository, then it is not applicable. So I told you, otherwise you can transfer your securities of the company or the interest of the members. What conditions? Transfer deed will be made, name, address, occupation, सारे same points है, duty stamped and SH4 will be used. SH4 कब तक file करना है हमें company के साथ? Within how many days the SH4 shall be filed with the company? All right, absolutely correct. Within 60 days. Now here the provision is very interesting because generally it says 30 days, but here you have to remember SH4 is for 60 days. It has to be filed with the company. The instrument of transfer has been lost or not delivered, then the company will register on the basis of indemnity. How will that register? Indemnity bond will have to be given. What was the partly paid up share? SH5 will have to be given to the transferee. देखो बेटा ध्यान से समझो, SH4 ट्रांसफरर दे रहा है कंपनी. अगर शेयर्स पार्टली पेड अप है तो कंपनी देगी SH5 ट्रांसफरी को. SH5 ट्रांसफरी, हमारे केस में कौन था? मिस्टर बी. एंड ट्रांसफरी कब तक रिप्लाई करेगा? विद इन 2 weeks के टाइम. अब somebody has asked in the chat box when SH5 needs to be filed. So there is a time limit for SH4 to be given within 60 days, child. Okay? Krishnapal, Naveen, want to ask something?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, good evening, Krishnapal.
Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, I am not joining the POS group.
Oh, so you've written in the chat box? Okay, we'll send you the link in the chat box. Okay, you can join the. So SH4 needs to be filed in 60 days. And then the company sees that it is partly paid up shares, then they will send the SH5 form to the transfer. The date when they have sent, within the 2 weeks, they will have to get the no objection from the transfer. All right. So no time limit has been given for giving SH5, but of course, once you have received SH4, then only you will be able to send SH5. Himanshu received a notice from Chaitanya Progressive Books Private Limited on 7th August, intimating that Shefali has submitted a transfer deed duly signed by her for transferring 500 partly paid up shares in his name. So who is the transferor? Shefali. Who is the transferee? Himanshu. How many shares are being transferred? 500. Are they fully paid up or partly paid up? Tell me. Are they fully paid up or partly paid up? None, they are partly paid up. 6 rupees has been paid. Himanshu, as a transferee, must raise his objection to the proposed transfer of partly paid up shares latest by 21st August. 7th अगस्त को कंपनी ने उसे नोटिस भेजा. क्या हुआ होगा? शिफाली ने कंपनी को SH4 दिया होगा. कंपनी ने देखा ये तो पार्टली पेड अप है, सो कंपनी ने हिमांशु को क्या दिया? SH5 दिया. कब दिया SH5? 7th अगस्त को दिया. 7th अगस्त में 2 वीक्स ऐड कर लो. 14th अगस्त, 21st अगस्त. सो 21st अगस्त को उसको बताना आएगा जी मुझे कोई ऑब्जेक्शन नहीं है. I will pay you the balance 6 rupees, 4 rupees. Then this transfer can happen. Krishnapal, write down your query in the chat box and I'll allow you to unmute later on, okay? Yes, Sabir Khan, Anubhav Malik, absolutely. It was partly paid up and this is the correct. Jaya Manocha, application of transferor of a loan means on the when transferor gives this application. Okay? Good, Navneet. Abhinav Mishra, great. 60 days पुराने वाले के लिए, okay. Kuldeep Nagar, good. Deepika. Prakriti, no, there are not much changes. You can follow that addition only. Okay, Prakriti. Yes, Jaya Manocha, anyone can give the application, but here if the transferor has given the application, so application is given by the transferor for partly paid up shares. उसने कहा जी मैं अपने शेयर ट्रांसफर कर रहा हूँ, but ये partly paid up, तभी तो नो ऑब्जेक्शन ले रहे हैं हम. अगर उसने जया मनोचा ऑलरेडी ट्रांसफर ही नहीं दी होती एप्लीकेशन, फिर तो वो ऑब्वियसली खुद ही बता रहा है ना. आप यहाँ पे पढ़िए, ट्रांसफर डीड इज एग्जीक्यूटेड and it is filed within 60 days. So the instrument has to be delivered within 60 days. But if the transferor alone is filing it, alone means he himself is filing the application related to partly paid up. Means I have decided to transfer my shares to you and I only go and tell the company I'm transferring and it is partly paid up. Then SH5 notice has to be sent by the company to the transfer. The company needs to take a confirmation from the transferee that I hope you have no problem in taking up this partly paid shares and tomorrow you will be paying us the money. They are only concerned with their amount of money. Government company who has not committed a default in filing their annual returns, it is not applicable to them. Full exemption is given to the government company. So securities held by the government company, they are freely transferable. They don't need to follow any of this procedure. They can transfer by making a transfer of bond. Partial exemption in respect of transfer of bonds issued by government company. Only an intimation by the transferee giving his name and address has to be delivered to the company along with the certificate relating to the bond. And if there is no certificate, letter of allotment, there is no need of proper transfer deed to be executed between the transfer and transfer. क्या कह रहा है? अगर आप गवर्नमेंट कंपनी है तो आप इंजॉय कीजिए बेनिफिट्स. आपको ट्रांसफर इंस्ट्रूमेंट मींस ट्रांसफर डीड बनाने की कोई भी जरूरत नहीं है. सिर्फ ट्रांसफरी हमारे पास आकर इंटीमेट कर दे कि ये शेयर्स हैं, मुझे उसने दिए हैं, ए ने मुझे ट्रांसफर करे, बी जाकर सिर्फ एक इंटीमेशन दे देगा, बता देगा, तो काम हो जाएगा. ठीक है ना? अलॉन्ग विद शेयर सर्टिफिकेट ले जाओ, अगर नहीं है तो लेटर ऑफ अलॉटमेंट ले जाओ बॉन्ड की, आराम से बॉन्ड्स ट्रांसफर हो जाएंगे. यू डोंट नीड टू मेक द ट्रांसफर डीड इंस्ट्रूमेंट. इज दैट क्लियर टू एवरीवन? Now transfer versus transmission. Transfer means that you are making the sale, you are giving your shares to somebody else. Yes, Anubhav Malik, exemptions to government company, that's correct. Transfer means I'm transferring my shares to somebody else. What is the meaning of transmission? Transmission means devolution of title to securities. Title means ownership. Title means ownership. Devolution means end of ownership of securities. Otherwise, then by transfer, for example, death हो जाना किसी transferor की, सक्सेशन हो जाना, इनहेरिटेंस हो जाना, बैंक्रप्सी या फिर मैरिज. So there are 4 to 5 cases in case of death of a person if he has become insolvent or he has become lunatic or mad. In such cases, the shares get transmitted to the right person, maybe his son or his child or anybody else. On registration of the transmission of securities, the person is entitled to become the holder and get all the rights and liabilities. Now, transmission is very, very simple. When you have to do the transfer of shares, you need to make a proper document like transfer deed. But transmission में आपको कोई transfer deed नहीं बनानी है. There was Mr. Ram who was having share certificates of 50,000 rupees. And he died. Then his son Sham will get this share certificate. Once Ram has died, do you think he will go and file an application after death? He cannot come since he has died. So he is no longer there. So his notarized copy of death certificate has to be given by Sham to the company that my father has died. Please give me that necessary document of share certificate. Transmit it in my name. Simple procedure. Succession हो जाना means father से बच्चे को जो चीज मिल जाती है. आपने एफडी कराई है कभी किसी ने फिक्स्ड डिपॉजिट बैंक में कराया हो या फिर कभी सेविंग अकाउंट खुलाया तो बोलते हैं ना नॉमिनी लिखवा. Nominee means tomorrow if you're not there, whosoever who you have appointed as a nominee by the legal process, they will get your money. Similarly, the share certificate, whosoever has got the share certificate, once he dies, the shares get transmitted to the person who has been nominated in his certificate. So a notarized copy of death certificate will be given and the transmission will happen. You don't need any document of transfer deed, stamping, वगैरह कुछ नहीं करना. Transmission is very, very simple procedure and it is devolution of title to securities means अब आपकी ownership खत्म हो गई है and किसी और को वो ownership मिल गई. And all the rights which were given to that person now will be given to the person who gets the documents. Let's refer to study material for the time period of delivery of services. So power to register transmission, if it is received, any intimation has to be received. Intimation means batana, communicate karna. Intimation means to communicate. One has to communicate from one person that he has got these rights has been transmitted. Transmission will happen in case of death, succession and inheritance. On registration of the transmission, the person will get all the rights of the holders of the securities. However, transfer happens with transfer deed. Here, you only need a notarized copy of the death certificate of the transfer. So, following are the list of transmission for a better understanding. When the shareholder has expired, his legal representative will get the shares. When he has become insolvent, his official receiver will get the shares. If he has become lunatic, means he has gone mad, then court will decide to whom his shares have to be given. Transfer of security of the deceased person. Now, if any security was given by the person, shall be made by legal representative will be valid if he, at the time of execution, if an actual such deed is not registered. Now, what is he trying to tell? The holder of any security means shares that were in the hands of the legal representative will be executed. So whatever your execution you have to be done, simply remember that you only have to give the intimation notice. Deeming effect of the holder means अब आप holder बन जाओगे. Ram was there, Ram died, his son Sham will now go and tell them, so he becomes the holder. Is that clear? Example number 13. Richard Daniel, after obtaining the succession certificate, succeed 7,000 shares to her late father Alexander by Speed Software Limited. Now, children, here there is a girl, Richa Daniel. Late father means father has died. So she has got by succession certificate 7,000 shares which were in the name of father. Now she needs to give the intimation letter to the company and company will give the 7,000 shares. But this Richard Daniel had to pay off her debt to a cousin. उसको कुछ पैसे देने थे स्टेस्ले को, अपने cousin को कुछ money देनी थी. She had to pay some money to her sister, and she said, "Okay, I'll transfer these 7,000 shares to you on the basis of transfer deed stamped and signed document." Accordingly, she has delivered the required documents to the company for transfer of the shares. Now, children, what is this case? This case is of transmission and transfer both. There was a father, Mr. A. Alexander, he has died. Automatically, Richard Daniel will succeed and get the shares. Transmission will happen. And this transmission was done by Speed Software Limited. Company को intimation दिया और उसने कर. Now, can Richard transfer the shares to somebody else? Yes, she can do it under Section 56 by submitting the duly stamped instrument, required share certificate and succession certificate. She can transfer the shares. Now, even though Richa is not the holder of 7,000 shares, this transfer made by her is a valid transfer as if she was the holder of securities at the time of executing the transfer. Now, he is trying to explain you the deeming effect. What is the word? This which they have written under Section 56, subsection 5 says that once the transfer of security, now listen very, very carefully. There was Mr. A who has died. So his daughter, Miss B, got the shares. Transfer of any security by the legal representative. So Miss B is the legal representative of deceased person? Yes, ma'am. Can she transfer the securities as if this legal representative is the holder, even though if she is not a holder? अब क्या हुआ होगा? हिंदी में भी समझाती हूँ, इंग्लिश में भी, ध्यान से सुन. रिचर्ड डैनियल गई होगी कंपनी के पास. 60 डेज में जैसे हम ट्रांसफर करते हैं, वो इंटीमेशन ऑफ ट्रांसमिशन का कोई तो टाइम पीरियड नहीं था, तो कंपनी को टाइम लग रहा होगा शेयर्स उसके नाम पे करने में, क्योंकि फादर के नाम पे शेयर्स है. बच्चा लेकर जाएगा कि इंटीमेशन डेथ सर्टिफिकेट है, प्लीज ट्रांसफर द शेयर्स इन माय नेम. नाउ सेक्शन 56 subsection 5 says even till the time these shares have not been transferred in the name of Richa, that is the legal heir, can she still make a valid transfer? You tell me yes or no. Can she execute the transfer deed and stamp it and transfer the shares to Stesley? Yes, Ria, absolutely correct. She can make this transfer. Navdeep says no. Why no? Shamli says yes. Deepika says yes. Good. Everybody says yes. So it says transmission ke case mein, agar Kuldeep, yes, good. Even if the shares have not yet come to your name, then also you can do the transfer to another person. Anubhav Malik, kya nahi samajh aaya? Okay, I will explain. Yes, Kuldeep. Okay, Anubhav, listen carefully. If A has transferred the shares to B, then it is the case of Section 56, entire transfer process has to be followed. But I said transmission happens if A has died, the shares will automatically go to her son or daughter, Mr. B. Now, before the shares could get in her name, she transferred the shares to Mr. C. Now, my question is the transfer made by B to C a valid transfer? Yes or no? Law says yes, it is valid, because in case of transmission, आप immediately owner बन जाते हो. आपके father के shares थे, father नहीं रहे, तो son immediately हो. Now, if you're transferring the shares further, it is absolutely a valid transfer. Same case happened in this Richa's case. So Richa got the shares because her father has died. Now, is she transferring to Stesley? So law says she has transferred on the duly receipt, even though Richa, the legal representative, is not a holder of 7,000 shares. उसका नाम अभी आया नहीं है, कंपनी को टाइम लग रहा है रजिस्ट्री करने में, ट्रांसफर करने में. Can she still make the transfer? Yes, ma'am, she has made a valid transfer because she can do that. Alternatively, she can choose to get herself registered, then make an application along with the share certificate, then also it's valid. There is no time limit for the transfer in case of transmission. There is no need to submit the transfer instrument or transfer deed in case of transmission, because transfer deed cannot be signed by the deceased person, right? इसमें transfer deed कैसे बनाओगे? बंदा मर ही गया तो कैसे sign करेगा? It's not possible. Company will scrutinize and will proceed ahead. New share certificate will be issued in the name of Richa and then she can transfer. दोनों आंसर्स करेक्ट है. आप पहले अपने नाम पे ट्रांसमिशन करा लो इंटीमेशन देकर, फिर ट्रांसफर करो, then that's fine. But section 56 of section 5 gives the right to the legal holder, even before the shares come into your name, you can still make a valid transfer. Clear? Now, time period for delivery of certificates. In case you are a subscriber to the memorandum, you will get the certificate within 2 months of the date of incorporation. Subscriber to the memorandum, remember, when you are taking up the shares in a company, you are promoters. Within 2 months of the incorporation, you will get the shares. In case allotment of the shares on the basis of prospectus, within 2 months of the date of allotment, 30 days, 60 days, yaad hai na? If transfer of securities is happening, within 1 month, you will get the transfer. So how much is the time period generally taken by the company in transferring the shares? 1 month. If it is a transmission, then also 1 month. In case debentures are allotted, 6 months from the date of allotment. 6 months from the date of allotment. Everybody read this date timing? Yes, Anubhav, it is a kind of deeming provision. Not exactly deeming. He is trying to tell you that you can transfer. It's a valid transfer because you assume to be the whole. Physical certificates means DMAT, online, physical share certificate. जैसे physical होता है, DMAT नहीं है तो physical हो गया. Everybody read the time limit? Okay, so quickly answer me in the chat box. Time for issue of debentures, within how much time period? Six months, great. Time for issue of transfer of securities, कितनी देर लेगा? Transfer of securities. Very good. Transmission of securities. Nice. Subscribers to the memorandum. Very good. 2 months. Allotment of the securities. 2 months. Very nice. Yes, Ria. You wanted to say, ask something, Ria? Okay. Shall we proceed ahead? Now, punishment for personation of shareholder. Personation, you remember, we did in the previous chapter also. If you're trying to do any fictitious names in your, if you're trying to take using somebody else's name, you're trying to do personation. Deceitfully means with cheating. आप जानबूझकर झूठ बोलकर अगर आप ओनर बन रहे हो सिक्योरिटी के या फिर इंटरेस्ट दे रहे हो या कोई भी शेयर वारंट एंड कूपन चुराने की कोशिश कर रहे हो, you're trying to do personation. Mr. A के नाम पे shares हैं and Haleen ma'am goes and do fake signatures and say that I am only Mr. A, deceitfully personalizing the owner of the security or any share coupons, then this person shall be punishable with 1 to 3 years of jail and a fine of 1 to 5 lakhs. Now, section 57 penalty is very important because the same penalty is given under section 58 also. The section 57 is very, very simple. You simply have to read section 57 that whatever personalization, if anybody is trying to cheat you, trying to create fictitious names, 56 की भी penalty पढ़ लेना बेटा. अगर 56 में कोई default करते हो तो 50,000 rupees penalty. If anybody is deceitfully personates means by cheating, if you're trying to use somebody else's name as the owner of the security, then 1 to 3 years fine and 1 to 5 lakhs is the penalty. Personation is offense under section 38 also. Remember 447 is a general provision. Anybody trying to do fraud, 447 to lagega hi lagega. Gravity of offense committed under personation under section 38 and 57 may be considered while imposing penalty out of range. Offense of cheating is punishable under 419, which makes 10 to 3 years of fine. Student may refer both section 38, both covered under chapter 3 also. Remember, we have done section 38 में पढ़ा हुआ है आपने. Everybody recalled? Very good. All right. Now this is important, very very important. Forged transfer. Forged का मतलब क्या होता है? Raise your hands and tell me. Let's make the class a little interactive. Because more than 1.5 hour over, and you start falling asleep, and you have to stay attentive and keep adding the charm to the class. What is the meaning of forgery? Nullity means forged signature, नकली signature करना, fake signatures. It says if anybody has put a forged signature, it has no meaning in the eyes of law. Forged transfer takes place when the company effects the transfer on the basis of transfer deed containing forged signatures. Means A ने शेयर्स किसके थे? A के. B ने A के नकली सिग्नेचर्स करके शेयर्स दे दिए C को. क्या ये वैलिड है? Law says नहीं, it is void. Why? Because transferee acquire the ownership only from the transferor. Transferor, who is the real owner, can only transfer the shares. If my title is defected, then I cannot give a better title to another person. So the company can be forced by him to delete the name of the transferee and restore his name as the owner in the register of members. What will happen if the transferee transfer to another buyer who does not know about the forgery? अब क्या होगा? B ने आगे C को दिए, C ने आगे D को दिए, and endorses the share certificate. Company cannot deny the ownership rights of the new genuine buyer, but can also not deny the ownership rights of the original because it's a forged, it's a void ab initio. Company has to restore his name. While restoring the name of the original shareholder, company may be asked to pay compensation to the new genuine buyer who has exercised good faith in purchasing the shares. Company may itself get indemnified by the first transferee using forged signatures to get the shares transferred. वेरी वेरी सिंपल चिल्ड्रन. आप सिंपल एक एग्जांपल लिखिए, मैं आपको लिखवाती हूँ. A transfer the shares to B by using forged signatures. A transfers the shares to B by using forged signatures. A ने transfer करे B को by using forged signatures, and B further transfer the shares to Mr. C. Now the real owner will go to the company and ask the company to restore the ownership back to his name. So the company will have to restore the ownership rights to the original shareholder because this transfer was void ab initio. आप लिखेंगे company will give the shares back to the original shareholder because this transaction was void ab initio. A has forged the signatures and transferred to B. B has further transferred in good faith to C. So वो कहते हैं C तो genuine buyer है ना, pay compensation to C and pay compensation. The genuine buyer C will be compensated by B. Compensation will be given to the genuine buyer C by B. All right, only this much you have to remember over here. So forged है, nullity है, मतलब कोई इफेक्ट नहीं होता, void ab initio है. आपने इंडियन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक्ट में ये सब चीजें पढ़ी, remember? सेक्शन 58 देखने में बहुत बड़ा लगता है बट बहुत ही सिंपल है. पहले आपको चार्ट दिखा देती हूँ, फिर समझाती हूँ. अभी तक सबको समझ आ रहा है? एवरीबडी इज अंडरस्टैंडिंग? यू वांट टू डू 1 or 2 क्वेश्चंस, देन यू वांट टू प्रोसीड अहेड. यस शामली, फेक सिग्नेचर्स, वेरी. थोड़ा सा क्वेश्चंस करा देती हूँ, है ना? यस नवनीत, धोखे से पर्सनेशन, गुड. Yes, Kuldeep, section 38 also gets attracted over there. Yes, Anubhav, forgery can be done anywhere and online to having more frauds. How can you deny? Fabricated signs, yes. Anubhav Mishra, fraud transfer, very good. Okay, shall we do certain questions? I think I should give you some questions to do so that, because अभी तो जो पढ़ाया है साथ साथ पढ़, थोड़ी नॉलेज टेस्टिंग भी हो जाए. सेक्शन 48 हमने कर लिया, 52 कर लिया. फिफ्टी सिक्स करा ना हमने अभी, एंड 55. ये लो जी, an important question in front of you. So there are two questions. Basically, the two questions purpose was giving because one is from the book, one is from the I think RTP's May 22 exam. So similar questions can come, but what is the answer to it? Take 2 minutes, read the question, and in the chat box, I want the answers. Sounding easy? Oh, so many people have given answers also. Read the question. Okay. Ma'am, I have joined late because of late registration. Group में join नहीं हुआ है और. Okay, Krishna Pal, you have some problem. You can speak to me now if you want. Okay, Krishna Pal, we'll ask sir to send you the link. Ajit sir, there is one student who wants the link of that WhatsApp group. Ashok sir.
Ma'am, just
Sir.
sharing.
Okay. So, Krishna Pal, we will be sending the link and you can join that link better. You will get all the details over there. Very good, Harsh Mishra. Good answers. Jasmeet Kaur. Okay, Jasmeet. We are sending the WhatsApp group link. You can join better. Can issue redeemable shares, 3/4 consent, Adil Khan. Good. So this is how you're answering. Yes, Savya Khan. 70% not, 3/4. Okay, good analysis, Navneet. So your analysis and the answers that you've given are largely correct. So insufficient funds, Silver Robotic is unable to redeem the preference shares amounting 10 lakh. Though as per the issue, they need to redeem within the next 2 months. It did not. The default of the dividend as and when become due. What is the remedy available to the company? So how you have to write about this? Section 55, even if you don't remember, what are you going to write? Ajit sir, for others also, you can give the rights for everyone chat box because they will be sending the answers now. So you may give them the access to the main chat box.
Done,
right?
Done.
All right. Thank you. So now you can use the main chat box for writing your answers because then it becomes easy. Yes, Aditya, for the previous one, your answer is correct. All right. Okay, now listen here first carefully. According to, as per the sections of the Companies Act, you would say, even if you don't remember section 55, as per the provisions of Companies Act, Company, if it is not able to redeem the preference shares or pay dividend, then it will be treated as unredeemed preference shares. 3/4 of the shareholders in value will give their consent and file the approval to the tribunal on a petition. Tribunal company will then issue further redeemable preference shares, including the amount of dividend, and the unredeemed preference shares shall deem to be redeemed. Tribunal, with the approval under this section, forthwith redeem the preference shares who have not consented to the issue of these redeemable preference shares. Means 3/4 who have consented will be issued for the preference shares. 1/4 of the value who have not consented can be considered to be redeemed immediately. I think in the next question they have asked the same now. 70% in the value addition they are making. So at least 3/4 have to make the addition. Now, how will you give the analysis? Silver Robotics wanted to redeem 3/4 in the value. They have made the redemption. They're seeking the approval. The shareholders who have not given their consent, they will be ordered. So, company must be ready with the sufficient funds for the redemption of preference shares held by those who have not consented. On the issue of redeemable preference shares, the unredeemed shall deem to be redeemed. So, दो सोल्यूशन होंगे. एक तो सफिशिएंट फंड्स देने पड़ेंगे उनको रिडीम करने के लिए जिन्होंने नहीं कंसेंट दिया, एंड दूसरे वालों को हम प्रेफरेंस शेयर्स इशू कर देंगे. Easy? Okay. Let's do question number 8. Ramesh, a resident of New Delhi, sent a transfer deed duly signed by him as transferee and his brother Suresh as transferor for registering the transfer of shares to Rayan International Private Limited, as its registered office is in Mumbai. So Ramesh in Delhi is signing the transferring deed to the transferring Suresh. He did not receive the transferred share certificate even after the expiry of 4 months from the date of dispatch. So he has lodged a complaint saying that the court at New Delhi is it competent to act. Whosoever is transferring the shares, New Delhi resident is transferring the shares in Mumbai. So where do you need to transfer? When transfer is taking place, which court will be liable? So say section 26, every company shall make an order to the tribunal, deliver the certificates within a period of 1 month from the date of receipt. If any default is made, the jurisdiction binding on the companies of the state in which the RO of the company is situated, that is Mumbai. आप shares जो transfer कर रहे हो वो मुंबई में, right? Sent a transfer deed duly signed by him as the transferee, and his brother is the transfer. So brother is from, transferor is from Mumbai. So registered office is situated in Mumbai. So Delhi High Court is not competent. You will have to file this case with the Bombay High Court. And if you're making a default, then every officer has a penalty of 50,000 rupees because within 1 month the transfer should have been done. Simple question, very, very simple, not even asking any other provisions, but you can make it out. Such a simple question. How it is written, section 56, subsection 4, if you'll read carefully, it is given this reference. I will show you where it is written about the jurisdiction. Section 56, subsection 6, when you refer. So there you have to see the penalty if you're not following the sections given above. Okay. Very good, Navneet, Abhinav Mishra, all of you have given the correct answer. Mumbai High Court will be the correct one. Okay, Krishan Pal, not an issue, and you can watch the recorded lectures and then you can follow from the next class. Okay, we have the next class on Wednesday, Krishan Pal. So be regular, okay, beta? Yes, Anubhav Malik, the tribunal only we are talking about. Which tribunal will be more suitable? Is that clear? Okay, directors desire to alter the capital clause of the memorandum of association. Advise them the ways in which the capital clause can be altered. Now, this we have not done, but the next topic that I'm going to take up with you is this only. So why not let's take up a topic from the question itself. How can we alter the share capital? So what is the meaning of the alteration of the share capital? It says when you are altering the share capital, you want to do it from the notes, we can do it from the notes. Alteration of the share capital means how you can alter the share capital. I'll be coming back to section 58 also, children. I thought of taking a small topic in between alteration, that is section 61. A limited company having a share capital can alter the capital clause of its memorandum of association in the following ways. First of all, tell me, where is the authorized share capital of the company written? And what is the meaning of authorized share capital of the company? Authorized share capital means the maximum amount which the company has decided to raise, and this amount is written under the capital clause of the memorandum of association. So now section 61 is going to tell us, can we increase or decrease this amount? So law says yes. Section 61 has given you the freedom that you can either increase your authorized share capital or you can decrease it. You can cancel also. Whatever you feel like, you can do that, provided alteration is given in the articles and you will have to alter your memorandum of association. So a company has a share capital, authorized share capital of 1 lakh shares of rupees 10 each. So it is the total authorized share capital of 10 lakh. So it wants to increase the share capital. Then it has to alter the memorandum of association. For what following ways? It can increase the authorized share capital. Say for example, 1 lakh se humne 2 lakh kar. So how you can do? You can increase 1 lakh hai, alter kara and 2 lakh. हमने कहा चलो हम इंक्रीज नहीं करते, हम कंसोलिडेट करके डिवाइड कर देते हैं अपने शेयर कैपिटल को इनटू द शेयर्स ऑफ लार्जर अमाउंट. सो आई हैड शेयर्स ऑफ रुपीज 1 lakh at the rate rupees 10 each. Let's divide the shares of larger amount. Divide, consolidate and divide. Either you can subdivide and divide the shares into smaller amount. या तो आप ऐसे कर दो कि मुझे अब करने हैं 1 lakh थे 10 rupees के, मैंने कर दिए 2 lakh shares at the rate rupees 5. तो मैंने शेयर्स बढ़ा दिए, नॉमिनल वैल्यू कम कर दिया. या फिर मैंने कहा शेयर्स कर देते हैं हम 10,000 shares at the rate rupees 100 each. So either you consolidate and divide the whole of the share capital into shares of larger amount. Tribunal will require only the consolidation and division results in changes in the percentage of the capital. Or you can divide into smaller amount. The proportion of the paid unpaid shares shall be the same as if it was in the reduced share capital. Means if rupees 10 था पहले, अब आपने rupees 100 कर दिया and 10,000 shares कर दिया. अगर 10 पे 8 rupees paid थे, तो that means अब 100 पे परसेंटेज होगा, 80 paid है तो 20 बैलेंस पे करने पड़ेगा. या तो आप नंबर ऑफ शेयर्स को बढ़ा दो एंड नॉमिनल वैल्यू कम कर दो, कंसोलिडेट कर दो, या फिर आप सब डिवाइड कर दो शेयर्स ऑफ स्मॉलर अमाउंट. बोथ इज पॉसिबल. Or you convert your fully paid shares into stock or vice versa of any denomination. Or you cancel the shares which have not been taken up and reduce the capital. So there are 1 lakh shares. अब कंपनी ने 1 lakh authorized share capital थी. एक्चुअली में कंपनी ने कितनी इशू करी? कंपनी ने सिर्फ 60,000 शेयर्स इशू करी. तो 40,000 मेरी अनइश्यूड शेयर्स है जिसके लिए अभी पेमेंट नहीं आई है, which has not been called up. Can I cancel these shares? Yes, section 61 says you can cancel these shares which have not been taken by the public. And अब आपकी capital 1 lakh से 60,000 की हो जाए. Children, will this cancellation amount to reduction of share capital? No. So ये 2 point आपने आज asterisk लगा के लिखने हैं. Redemption of preference shares is not reduction of capital, and cancellation of shares under section 61 is also not reduction of share capital. मैम फिर ये है क्या reduction of share capital? कोई नहीं, आज जाने से पहले बताकर जाऊंगी. Reduction of capital is section 66. अगर आप कैपिटल रिडीम कर रहे हो प्रेफरेंस शेयर्स, देन आल्सो इट इज नॉट रिडक्शन ऑफ कैपिटल. अगर आप कैंसिल करते हो शेयर्स, देन आल्सो इट इज नॉट रिडक्शन ऑफ शेयर कैपिटल. So how can we alter the share capital? There are different methods of altering. You can either consolidate, subdivide, convert, increase or cancel. The only thing to explain over here is when you consolidate and divide the share capital into shares of larger amount. ठीक है ना, अब मेरे 1 लाख शेयर्स थे ऑफ ₹10 ईच, मैंने कर दिए 2 लाख शेयर्स ऑफ ₹5 ईच. बात तो एक ही है, वो भी 10 लाख थे, ये भी 10 लाख है टोटल. ठीक है ना. बट ए के वोटिंग राइट थे 60%, डी था शेयर होल्डर, उसकी वोटिंग राइट 70% है, सी के 30% है. Tell me one thing, children, will these voting rights be affected by changing the number of shares? The answer is no. If the consolidation and division is resulting in changing the voting percentage, then you will need to take the approval of the tribunal, because then it will be variation of shareholders' rights. Voting rights को नहीं आपने vary करना. Okay? Very good. Internal reconstruction, Kuldeep. Excellent. Shamli, company में further issue. Very good. Navneet, difference between MOA and AOA? Are you seriously asking me this question? Okay. MOA is Memorandum of Association, which is the charter of the company, which has all the details, how the company has been made, how the company is formed, the object clause of the company, and under Section 13 of the Companies Act, you can alter it if any changes are required. जो आप Chapter 2 में पूरा incorporation में पढ़ते हो. Articles of the company gives you the basic rules, how the sweat equity has to be issued, how the DVRs will be issued. All these basic rules and regulations are given in the Articles of Association. So they can also be, articles can also be altered, but articles tell you about the day-to-day running of the company. Memorandum tells you about the broader perspective, how the company is being formed, and what is the authorized share capital, who will be the nominee in case of OPC, and all those. Clear? All right. नहीं हो रहा अनुभव, ऑथराइज्ड शेयर कैपिटल रिमूव नहीं होगा. रिडक्शन एक अलग प्रोसेस है. कंपनी जब अनइश्यूड शेयर्स कैंसिल करती है तब ऑथराइज्ड शेयर कैपिटल तो काम कर ही रहे हैं ना हम, बट रिडक्शन ऑफ शेयर कैपिटल सेक्शन 66 में एक अलग चीज है. कैंसिलिंग ऑफ शेयर्स, वी आर कैंसिलिंग, वी हैड 1 लाख ऑथराइज्ड शेयर कैपिटल मैक्सिमम अमाउंट. कंपनी ने सिर्फ 60,000 इश्यू करी एंड 60,000 उन्होंने ले ली, या फिर कंपनी ने 60,000 करी, 50,000 सिर्फ सब्सक्राइब हुई. तो अब मैंने कहा कि चलो 60,000 में रखती हूँ, मैं रखी फुल 60,000. Authorized share capital can be reduced, Anubhav, but that does not mean reduction of share capital. Why? Because reduction has a separate meaning. All right. So further issue of share capital we'll be doing under section 62, 63, ESOPs, ये सारा हम करेंगे अभी. So alteration of share capital can take place in different 5 sections. Power of limited companies to alter its share capital. So what is the power under section 61? Increase, decrease, consolidate, subdivide and cancel. Rights issue कर सकते हैं 62 में, existing members को shares देने. Bonus issue, additional shares दे रहे. Reduction of share capital, section 66, alteration का ही part है, but reduction is separately given under section 66. And buyback of securities. So next important class में rights issue, bonus issue, reduction, we'll try to touch base today only. Buyback and debentures will be taken up in the class on Wednesday. So today let's complete the balance sections of transfer and transmission पे वापस आ जाते हैं. Effect of registration and removal and appeal against refusal. Now where were we? A was the transferor. He has transferred his shares to Mr. B. And we told you that within 60 days, application should be filed with the company. इतना हमने पढ़ लिया था. Now, A wants to transfer his shares to B and A has made the transfer deed. A is of private company, ABC Private Limited. When in 60 days A made the application, company was supposed to transfer the shares to B. This is what we have understood under section 56. But company said, no, we will not transfer your shares to Mr. B. There is some reason that the company wants to refuse the transfer. So section 58 says, if company refuses to transfer, you can go and file an appeal in tribunal against that refusal. हिंदी में अब हम ये करने जा रहे हैं कि अगर हम ट्रांसफर करें शेयर्स और कंपनी अगर मना करती है आपको ट्रांसफर करने से, तो आप कंपनी के खिलाफ ट्राइब्यूनल में अपील फाइल कर सकते हो और अपना केस कंप्लीट करा सकते हो। सो प्राइवेट कंपनी ने अगर नो बोला तो आप ट्राइब्यूनल में चले जाना। अगर तो प्राइवेट कंपनी ने 30 डेज के टाइम में रिप्लाई करना होता है। Once I have sent my transfer deed to the private company, within 30 days, company will give me a notice of approval. And if company has given me the notice of approval in 30 days, then in next 30 days, I can file an appeal to the tribunal. So total मुझे 60 days wait करना। 30 days तक कंपनी का मुझे नोटिस ऑफ रिफ्यूजल आना चाहिए। In next 30 days, I can go and file an appeal to the tribunal. But if company fails to give the notice of refusal, company ने कुछ कहा भी नहीं और ट्रांसफर भी नहीं कर, then in 60 days I can file the appeal to the tribunal. So the time period is 30 days, 30 days, and if no 30 days, then in 60 days. And similar case, public company cannot refuse without sufficient case, because in public company, the shares are freely transferable. We have made the transfer deed. We have come to you. We have got the deed stamped and signed. Everything is fine. Why are you refusing? So again, public company will have to reply in 30 days. If company reply in 30 days, file an appeal to tribunal in next 60 days. If company does not reply, then you file an appeal in 90. So यहाँ पे 30 and 60 days है, वहां पे 60 and 90 days. And when the tribunal pass the final order, within 10 days, tribunal will pass the order whether the refusal should be done or not to be done. And if the tribunal is in favor of transfer, he will ask them to rectify the register of members immediately. Now, what is the meaning of rectification of register? Rectification means register को correct करना, rectify करना. तो बोलेगा ट्राइब्यूनल, ए का नाम है, ए ने ट्रांसफर करे शेयर्स बी को, रजिस्टर रेक्टिफाई करो, ए का नाम रिमूव कर बी का नाम ऐड, रिमूव द नेम ऑफ ए बिकॉज हिज ट्रांसफर इज शेयर्स टू बी, नाउ ऐड द नेम ऑफ मिस्टर. एंड इफ यू डू एनी कॉन्ट्रवेंशन in following order of tribunal, the same fine of section 57 will become applicable, that is 1 to 3 years imprisonment and 1 lakh to 5 lakh rupees fine. क्लियर है? इसको मन में छपा लेना है इस चार्ट को आज. 30 days, 60 days, 60 days, 90 days, and let's read entire provisions from study material. अनुभव मिश्रा आरओसी का कंप्लायंस हम सेक्शन 61 में देखेंगे. पहले हम सेक्शन 58 कंप्लीट करें. सो पर्सनेशन क्लियर, सिर्फ पेनल्टी याद रखनी है उसमें. फोर्स ट्रांसफर इज क्लियर. effect of refusal and appeal against refusal, everybody should be involved in this because it's very important. Shares of public company are freely transferable, no restriction. Procedure to be followed if company is refusing your transfer of securities. What you have to do. Now I'm making you mark down the points. Please mark down the points in the study material so it becomes easy for you to learn. If private company refuses and give the reasons, within 30 days, the date on which the notice was sent was delivered to the company. So when can the private company give the notice of refusal? मैंने गोला लगाया within 30 days with reasons. Point number 2, securities of public company. Securities of public company are freely transferable and they can enter into contract between 2 or more persons. Appeal has to be filed to the tribunal if it's a private company. देखो जैसे लॉ में लिखा है, स्टडी ने वैसे ही लिखा है, तो थोड़ा ध्यान से समझना पड़ेगा. अभी आपने ऊपर क्या पढ़ा? पॉइंट नंबर 1 से रिलेट करो इसको. प्राइवेट कंपनी है तो प्राइवेट कंपनी ने 30 डेज में बताना है नोटिस ऑफ रिफ्यूजल. अगर नोटिस आ गया तो विद इन 30 डेज, फर्दर 30 डेज में आप एप्लीकेशन फाइल करोगे. अगर नोटिस नहीं आया, द इंस्ट्रूमेंट वॉज डिलीवर्ड एंड इन केस नो नोटिस हैज बीन सेंड बाय द कंपनी, कंपनी ने कुछ नहीं कहा, तो 60 डेज में आप अपील कर। Application has been received by private company for transferring the shares on 25 November. Transferee didn't get any response. When can he file the advance to the 25 नवंबर, 25 दिसंबर, 24 जनवरी, क्योंकि 31 दिसंबर आता है ना बीच में, तो 60 डेज 24 जनवरी को कंप्लीट, 24 जनवरी तक तो कर लेगा। अगर इसी क्वेश्चन में एप्लीकेशन रिसीव हुई प्राइवेट कंपनी को 25 नवंबर एंड प्राइवेट कंपनी ने 30 नवंबर को नोटिस ऑफ रिफ्यूजल भेज दिया, प्राइवेट कंपनी ने 30 नवंबर को नोटिस ऑफ रिफ्यूजल भेज दिया, बाय व्हाट डेट द ट्रांसफरी कैन फाइल एन अपील इफ इट इज अ प्राइवेट कंपनी? थर्टी टू 13, 30 दिसंबर, नवनीत एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट। 30 डेज में, नेक्स्ट 30 डेज। ओके, गॉट इट एवरीबडी? आदिल खान शामली करेक्ट। अपील टू ट्राइब्यूनल बाय पब्लिक कंपनी, तो ये दो पॉइंट्स क्लियर हो गए यहाँ पे, 30, 30 एंड 60 डेज। अब पब्लिक कंपनी में चलते, फिर से पब्लिक कंपनी 30 डेज में कंपनी बताएगी, 60 डेज में ऑफ सच रिफ्यूजल चले जाना, एंड इफ नो नोटिस हैज बीन रिसीव्ड 90 डेज। एप्लीकेशन रिसीव्ड बाय पब्लिक कंपनी 25 नवंबर 2022, ट्रांसफरी डिड नॉट गेट एनी रिस्पॉन्स, तो कितने दिनों में जाएंगे? 90 डेज। दिसंबर, जैन, फेब, 90 डेज। बट मैं चेंज कर देती हूँ क्वेश्चन, कंपनी ने रिस्पॉन्ड करा 30 नवंबर कि हमें आपको नहीं देने शेयर्स, तब कितनी देर में जाओगे बताओ? फिर से दिसंबर कह रहे हो, रॉन्ग दीपिका, आप पुराने वाले के लिए। 24 जैन, अशीलेशा हाउ? 30 जैन, एब्सोल्युटली साविया खान करे, पूजा भी करे, कुलदीप बाय 28, 60 डेज काउंट करने बेटा, 30 से 29 करो, 29, 29, 29 जैन होगा भी ठीक वाला आंसर। 30 जैन एवरेज लगा रहे हो तो 31 दिसंबर, एक दिन वहां पे भी है ना बेटा, 30 नवंबर के बाद 31 दिसंबर, 31 डेज हो गए, 30 मूव, ओके, 29 January. Everybody is on the same page. All right. Now, what is the order of the tribunal? Tribunal will pass the order saying that either do the registration in next 10 days. Transfer or transmission shall be registered by the company within a period of 10 days. Or he will direct the rectification of the register and also to pay the damages to any party. Damages भी पे करने के लिए बोलेगा एंड रेक्टिफिकेशन बोलेगा, या फिर 10 दिन में बोलेगा कि आप इस काम को कर दो। अगर उसको लगता है ये बहुत अर्जेंट है तो रेक्टिफिकेशन बोलेगा, नहीं तो वो 10 दिन का टाइम देगा। एंड अगर आप नहीं कंप्लाई करते तो 1 से 3 साल जेल में जाओ एंड 1 to 5 lakhs पेनल्टी भी भरो। दिस इज योर समरी ऑफ सेक्शन 58. Notice of refusal to register by private company shall be given only to the transferee within 30 days? No, it has to be given to both transferor and transferee. Important mark कर लो, MCQ में आए, दोनों को देना है, ट्रांसफरर एंड ट्रांसफर। सेक्शन 59 नहीं करते अभी, समझ आ गया? फटाफट से पढ़ो ट्रांसफर एंड ट्रांसमिशन। कोई डाउट? रेज योर हैंड्स, एनीवन हैविंग एनी डाउट्स? यस नवनीत, ऑफ कोर्स पेनल्टी फॉर कंपनी, कंपनी ने रिफ्यूज करा है तो वही भरेगी पेनल्टी। कोई डाउट्स नहीं है, किसी को कुछ नहीं पूछना, सब आ गया समझ? एंड ये देखो आपने ऑल्टरेशन ऑफ शेयर कैपिटल भी कर लिया। यस कुलदीप कर दो।
Hello.
Yes, Kuldeep, too much noise at the back. Kuldeep, you type it in the chat box. Okay. Section 62 तो हमने करा नहीं है। I wanted to do 1 or 2 questions with you. हमने रिडेम्पशन ऑफ प्रेफरेंस शेयर्स का क्वेश्चन कर लिया है, ट्रांसफर एंड ट्रांसमिशन का भी कर लिया ना हमने. अब हम करेंगे नोटिस ऑफ स्वेट इक्विटी शेयर्स करा आपने बेटा मेरे साथ? ओके, दिस इज अ नाइस क्वेश्चन. Yes, Kuldeep, because in DMAT these things will not be possible. But again, if it is given in the law, we have to know the provisions what it is given. Okay. But still, if they're having the shareholders are having the physical copy and transferring, so see, refusal is being transferred. Section 58, Kuldeep, still will be applicable, no? All right, students, same questions given but different format so that you can understand RTPs, MTPs, and ICAI module. Everything has been covered over here. So Nilesh transferred 1,000 equity shares to his sister, did not register the transfer of shares, and also did not send the refusal notice within the prescribed period. So what are the provisions, how the aggrieved party can act, or the shares have been refused to transfer by X to Y, notice of refusal was given to Mr. X and Y. What are the parties' rights against the company for such refusal? Harsh purchased 1,000 shares from Prateek and sent those transfer in his name. He has transferred the shares, nor any notice of refusal has been sent. What is the time limit? So in either of the cases, you're supposed to write what is the time period if any notice has been sent for the refusal of the transfer of the shares. Who is going to give me the answers? Yes, Harsh, absolutely, beta. And once you read it, then you get proper clarity and the vision happens, everything is fine. Okay. Thank you, Harsh. So let's see how you have to write the problem given in this question is with respect to refusal to register the transfer and appeal to be filed. If company has committed the wrongful act of not sending, then if it is a public limited company, you have to follow the time periods of 30 days, 60 days and 90 days. And if it is a private company, you will have to follow the provisions of 30 days, 30 days and 60 days. As the company has not sent a refusal notice, Ms. Mukta can file an appeal within a period of 60 days from the date when the instrument was delivered to the company, since it is a private limited company. Clear है? Everybody is clear on this? Do you want me to start reduction of share capital also, because we have time? Section 68 ऐसे बन. चलो थोड़ा सा हम वो शुरू कर देते हैं बेटा. सेक्शन 68, 66. सेक्शन 59 अभी मैंने आपको छुड़वाया है, हम करेंगे. सो हमारा सेक्शन 59 पेंडिंग है. 61 हमने कर लिया है. अब हम 62, 63, 64 भी हम नेक्स्ट क्लास पे करेंगे. 66 करने जा रहे हैं. ओके. Conservation of capital is one of the principle of company law because any reduction diminishes the funds out of which the creditor and other debt holders are to be paid. Therefore, it adversely impacts. But sometimes it becomes necessary to bring a reduction in the share capital. A closely fenced power is given under section 66. अब सब बच्चे जो मुझे कह रहे थे मैम ऑथराइज्ड शेयर कैपिटल हमने रिड्यूस करा, तो रिडक्शन ऑफ शेयर कैपिटल हुआ ना, तो मैंने आपको कहा था नहीं, क्यों नहीं हुआ? क्योंकि रिडक्शन ऑफ शेयर कैपिटल हमेशा पेड अप शेयर कैपिटल की बात करता है। ऑथराइज शेयर कैपिटल तो आपकी मैक्सिमम अमाउंट है जो मेमोरेंडम में लिखी है। कैपिटल को कंजर्व करके चलना होता है। अगर आप कैपिटल को रिड्यूस कर रहे हो मींस आप कंपनी के फंड्स को रिड्यूस कर रहे हो, जहां से क्रेडिटर्स एंड शेयर होल्डर्स के राइट्स इफेक्ट हो रहे हैं। ऑथराइज शेयर कैपिटल कम करने से क्रेडिटर्स एंड शेयर होल्डर्स के राइट्स इफेक्ट नहीं हो रहे हैं। प्रेफरेंस शेयर कैपिटल रिडीम करने से क्रेडिटर्स एंड शेयर होल्डर्स के राइट्स इफेक्ट नहीं हो रहे। इसलिए हमने आज लिखा था कि रिडेम्पशन ऑफ प्रेफरेंस शेयर इज नॉट रिडक्शन ऑफ शेयर कैपिटल, ऑल्टरेशन ऑफ ऑथराइज्ड शेयर कैपिटल इज आल्सो नॉट रिडक्शन ऑफ शेयर कैपिटल। सो मैम क्या होता है रिडक्शन ऑफ शेयर कैपिटल? It adversely affect the creditors and other shareholders who are attached with the company. So section 66 says the reduction can be done by passing special resolution. A company limited by shares or guarantee having a share capital may reduce the share capital in the following manner. Extinguish or reduce the liability on any of the shares in respect of the share capital not paid up. एक्सटिंग्विश कर देना, उड़ा देना, हटा देना, रिड्यूस कर देना मींस फिनिश कर देना, लाइबिलिटी को रिमूव कर देना। मेरी कंपनी की शेयर्स है ₹100 पर शेयर, मैंने कॉल किए ₹80 पर शेयर एंड शेयर होल्डर्स ने ₹80 पर शेयर पे कर दी सब। I thought that let me keep the shares of ₹80 per share. Earlier, I had 10,000 shares of ₹100 each. So my capital was 1 lakh shares और 10 lakh कितना हुआ? 100 है तो 10 lakhs हुआ ना? 10 lakh थी मेरी शेयर कैपिटल। 1,000 shares of ₹100 each. 10,000 shares of ₹100 each. 10 lakh rupees शेयर कैपिटल। एंड ये था ₹100 each का। अब मैंने अपने शेयर प्राइस ही ₹80 पेड अप है, मैंने कहा चलो 80 का ही कर दो। तो अब मेरी शेयर कैपिटल कितनी रहेगी बेटा? 8 लाख रुपए। क्या मैं कह सकती हूँ कि मेरी शेयर कैपिटल रिड्यूस हो गई है? कैन वी से दैट रिडक्शन ऑफ शेयर कैपिटल हैज हैपेंड? यस, आई हैव रिड्यूस्ड द लायबिलिटी ऑन द शेयर्स। अब क्या 20 रुपए पे करने हैं शेयर होल्डर को? डज द शेयर होल्डर नीड टू पे ₹20? नो मैम, बिकॉज अब मेरा शेयर प्राइस ही 80 का हो गया। क्यों कह रहे हो शामली? ये अवेलेबल एसेट्स। अब क्या हुआ, कंपनी की बैलेंस शीट है, बैलेंस शीट में यहाँ पे आता है लायबिलिटीज और यहाँ आते हैं एसेट्स। कंपनी की लायबिलिटी में था 1000 करोड़ लायबिलिटी, इसके आगे दिख रहा है 800 करोड़ एसेट्स। 200 करोड़ लायबिलिटी जो है वो किन एसेट्स को रिप्रेजेंट कर रही है हमें नहीं पता, गुम हो गई हमसे। हमें वो पेड अप शेयर कैपिटल के अगेंस्ट कोई एसेट्स ही नहीं अवेलेबल। लॉ कहते कम कर दो, आपकी कंपनी है, आपके पास एसेट्स नहीं है, आप 1000 से कम कर कर 800 रुपए कर दो, तो 200 करोड़ से हम लायबिलिटी को रिड्यूस कर देंगे। कैंसिल कर दो वो वाली पेड अप शेयर कैपिटल जिसके अगेंस्ट एसेट्स ही नहीं है, which is lost or unrepresented. एंड थर्ड वाला तो बहुत ही अमेजिंग है। कंपनी ने शेयर्स मंगवाए 9 करोड़ रुपीस के, सब्सक्राइब हो गए। 10 करोड़ की कैपिटल थी, 9 करोड़ सब्सक्राइब हो गई, लोगों ने शेयर ले लिए। कंपनी को लगा इतना पैसा तो चाहिए ही नहीं है, 7 करोड़ में काम बन जाएगा, तो 2 करोड़ पे ऑफ कर दो, वापस कर दो, हमें तो चाहिए ही नहीं भाई, गलती हो गई, हमने ऐसे 9 करोड़ मांग लिए, 7 करोड़ में काम हो जाएगा। तो कंपनी ने पेड अप शेयर कैपिटल रिड्यूस कर दी। माइंडेड रिडक्शन ऑफ शेयर कैपिटल इज ऑलवेज ऑफ द पेड अप शेयर कैपिटल। बैलेंस शीट में शेयर कैपिटल होती है, मेमोरेंडम में ऑथराइज शेयर कैपिटल होती है, कितनी मैक्सिमम कंपनी रेज कर, फिर आती है सब्सक्राइब, कितनी लोगों ने हमसे सब्सक्राइब करी, कितनी हमने इशू करी, कितनी कॉल्ड अप थी और कितनी पेड अप थी। ये जो पेड अप शेयर कैपिटल होती है, दिस इज द रियल कैपिटल ऑफ द कंपनी विद व्हिच द कंपनी इज डूइंग द बिजनेस. If this capital is being reduced, it is affecting my creditors and shareholders. So section 66 can only tell me how this paid up share capital can be reduced. I told you there are 3 methods. Extinguishing the liability of the shareholders. 10 का शेयर था, मैंने शेयर ही 8 का कर दिया. 2 रुपए की लाइबिलिटी पे ही नहीं करनी. कितना मजा आया, हमने 8 रुपीज पे करा था. मुझे तो टेंशन थी कि कंपनी को 2 रुपए और देने हैं. कंपनी ने लाइबिलिटी रिड्यूस कर दी, शेयर का प्राइस ही कम कर दी. शेयर होल्डर को बेनिफिट, अब नहीं पे करना. 8 रुपीज का शेयर है, मीन्स शेयर कैपिटल एक्सटिंग्विश होगी, लाइबिलिटी कम. पेड अप शेयर कैपिटल 1000 की है और उसके बदले में एसेट्स 800 ही है, तो 200 क्या तो मेरे पास एसेट ही नहीं है, तो कैंसिल कर दो 800 ही कैपिटल. एंड अगर मेरे पास एक्सेसिव में कैपिटल आ गई है, मुझे चाहिए ही नहीं इतनी, 10 करोड़ मांगी थी, 9 करोड़ में बिजनेस हो जाएगा, 1 करोड़ पे ऑफ. एक्सेसिव कैपिटल को पे ऑफ कर देना, खत्म कर देना इज ऑल्सो रिडक्शन ऑफ शेयर कैपिटल. इज दैट क्लियर? So reduction of share capital in itself has a certain procedure to be followed, and we will understand what are the all steps in detail about how we can reduce this share capital. Now I'm trying to find out some good MCQs for you so that you do something important. Chalo ji. This is a question. आराम से पढ़िए and everybody, it's an MCQ based question, everybody has to answer. Only 5 correct answers. What about others? Still thinking? Complicated hai? Or it is easy? So Kishka, the original allottee and owner in the modern biscuits, transferred the shares to Vanchika by way of gift, and the transfer deed is completed along with 17 July 2020. Company did not register the transfer after the expiry of more than 1 month and did not even send any notice of refusal or reminder. Appeal is to be filed against the tribunal against the failure to register. So it's a private company. How much time period has to be seen? After 30 days, it will be 30 and 60 days. Keshika continues to remain the owner till they are registered. Transferee and the potential owner has the right to file with the tribunal against the company. Both have to file a joint appeal. ऐसा तो कुछ भी नहीं था. NCLT may allow either to file an appeal against the company. Yes. Vanchika is the transferee and the potential owner. She will have the right to file the appeal. In case of private company, transferee may file an appeal where no notice of refusal has been received, and this appeal will be filed within 60 days from the date on which the instrument of transfer was delivered to the company. So now see children, this question was very simple, but how he's trying to confuse you. He's saying that transferor will remain the owner and he will file an appeal. Transferee will have the right to file the appeal. Both of them have the right. And as per the decision, NCLT will allow. तो ऐसा तो हमने कहीं पढ़ा ही नहीं कि जहां पे तुम्हें NCLT ने बताना है. तो टॉपिक क्या था? Transferee to file an appeal against the refusal or rejection if this transfer is not taking place as per download. So if any refusal is made, private company, transferee will have to file an application to the tribunal. Transferee will file an application to the tribunal. Who will file the application? Transferee will file an application to the tribunal because he has not got the right to get the shares without any notice of refusal. He can file an appeal. Kuldeep, I hope that point was clear to you. Still having any doubt, you can raise. Yes, Anubhav, it was a tricky question. That's how we understand. That's why each and every line, D क्यों कह रहे हो अनुभव मालिक? D तो कभी था ही नहीं. It was also not correct. So that's why I wanted to do MCQ with you so that you get a good application of things also in your mind. Prajapati, I hope now it's clear. Santosh Kumar ने C करा. Ashilesha, correct answer, well done. लगता है डेट्स में डाउट हो रहा था, बट डेट्स तो चॉइस में थी. क्या समझ आता है? ये संतोष कंफ्यूजन था कि हमें जो मैम ने पढ़ाया है, हमने वो बुक्स खोलूंगी, आज पढ़ूंगी सेक्शन 58, मैम ने जो पढ़ाया तो मैं पढ़ूंगी कि ट्रांसफरी में या फाइल एंड अपील. तो ईच एंड एवरी वर्ड ऑफ द स्टडी मटेरियल इज इम्पोर्टेंट. ठीक है. एंड जब हम बहुत सारे ऐसे क्वेश्चंस प्रैक्टिस करते हैं तो हमें धीरे धीरे आदत पड़ जाती है, हमें पता लग जाता है किस तरह से पेपर आएगा और हमने हाउ वी हैव टू प्रिपेयर रिकॉर्ड. ओके.